the streets of the French capital were filled with protesters once again on Sunday as they commemorated the execution of Iranian protester Mohsen Shekari on Thursday. Shekari was the first person to be executed in connection to the movement which has shaken Iran for the last 3 months following the death of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini whilst in police custody. Let's hear from some of those out in Paris today.
His name was Mohsen Shekari. He was 23 and he had his whole life ahead of him. He liked to sing, to dance, and to play music, to live his life to the fullest. On December 8th, Mohsen Shekari was the first protester executed since the beginning of the revolution.
It's important to say no and to tell Brussels to dismiss Iranian ambassadors and consuls, to react. Cutting your hair is not enough.
Protesters and rights groups, however, sounding the alarm, warning that more demonstrators are at imminent risk of execution. Let's bring into the conversation Gissou Nia, a human rights lawyer and director of a project at the Atlantic Council. Gissou, thank you so much for joining us here on France 24. Now, Iran's government is obviously trying to send a message with these executions. Tell our viewers what that is.
Well, what they want to do is quell the protests. These protests have been going on for 3 months, and people are still coming out into the streets. We saw that last week there were nationwide strikes from Monday through Wednesday. And then even after Mohsen Shekari was put to death, people were still coming out and confronting security forces. So what the Islamic Republic wants to do is start to execute people who were just exercising their freedom of expression, assembly and association, and basically have this chilling effect.
Gissou, there are reportedly thousands of people who've been arrested. How many executions are we potentially looking at?
There are more than 18,000 people who have been arrested. So far, what we know is that there are a little more than 40 individuals who have been sentenced to charges like corruption on earth, waging war against God. These are very vague security-focused charges that under Iran's Islamic Penal Code carry the death penalty. I'm afraid that we'll see many more of these to come unless the global community and countries around the world take a really strong stance, not only issuing words of condemnation, but also coupling that with action.
Let's bring that in then. What can be done to stop these executions? Are external sanctions enough?
I think a very clear step that needs to be taken is that countries in the European Union and Europe and really around the world that have diplomatic relations with the Islamic Republic, they need to have a forceful diplomatic response that's a joint response to these atrocities. We need to save these young people who are 20, 21, and 22-year-old, that's it, from being executed. And that could include things like jointly recalling their ambassadors for consultations. That could include summoning the Islamic Republic of Iran's ambassadors for censure. These kinds of methods were taken after the killing of Iranian Kurdish dissidents in Germany and something that was called the Mykonos murders back in the early 90s. These steps were taken, and it really led to the Islamic Republic curbing its campaign of assassinating Iranian dissidents on European soil. So I think we need this kind of strong political signal.
Speaking within Iran, do you think the killings will have their intended effect and scare the public, or do you think that the Iranian government is playing with fire? These are some of the biggest protests we've ever seen in the country.
Well, what we've certainly seen is that after Mohsen Shekari's execution was announced, we still saw lots of video coming out from Iran of people taking to the streets and being very angered and incensed about that. And that fits in within a broader pattern that we've seen over the course of this 3 months. Anytime young people have been killed, these 15, 16, and 17-year-old teenage girls on the Chehnom, or the 40th day of remembrance, we see that there are full-scale protests. So it seems that the protesters are not backing down. They want a full-scale change of the system, and it's not having the chilling effect that the Islamic Republic is intending to do.
Okay, Gissou Nia, thank you so much for joining us there on France 24.
Thank you.